disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. Been a fantastic day so far. So, being the anniversary of January 6th, the Pearl Harbor of America, the day that democracy almost got massacred, according to the mainstream media, 3 years ago, that horrific day where people came into the Capitol and walked around like a tour guide, is still on people's minds. And so much on people's minds that Joe Biden made a specific speech about it to advance his campaign and his first stop in South Carolina. Now, of course, Joe Biden going to South Carolina first because that was the first state that he was able to, swing around, corrupt it enough to boost his campaign when Bernie Sanders was running his during the primary, and Bernie Sanders won all of his districts, and then somehow Joe Biden won South Carolina. That was not all suspicious. So of course Joe Biden's going to go back to the scene of the crime because it's easy just to turn South Carolina around. It's easy to corrupt the officials down there. And he made this speech in the regards of the anniversary of January 6th. And just listen how deranged this is. Coming from, looks like Clint Eastwood when he's constipated. But he is just gritting his teeth further and further to rehash how he felt about January 6th and trying to fearmonger people more into the 2024 election. Even though there's already enough problems going on, he's just going to rehash the thing that we already know was a complete utter scam. There was feds inside the entire operation. We know that this whole thing was manufactured from the inside. He's going to rehash that for you, ladies and gentlemen, for his 2024 campaign.
For the first time in our history, insurrectionists had come to stop the peaceful transfer of power in America. First time. Smashing windows, shattering doors, attacking the police. Outside, gallows were erected as the MAGA crowd chanted, "Hang Mike Pence." Inside, they hunted for Speaker Pelosi. The House was chanting as they marched through and smashed windows, "Where's Nancy?" Over 140 police officers were injured. Jill and I attended the funeral of police officers who died as a result of the events of that day.
Hold on, what did he say? What did he say about the funeral? Hold on.
The funeral of police officers injured. Jill and I attended the funeral of police officers who died as a result of the events of that day.
You mean the funeral that the officers died from natural causes, which is what all the autopsies were reporting? You mean the coroner's office that said he died from natural causes, not afflicted by January 6th? I don't know, maybe he wouldn't be so overworked if they had more cops at the time when they were notified that there was going to be an angry mob appearing at the Capitol. But they ignored those claims. They ignored that intelligence, just like any other time in history. And they allowed this to happen so they could prosecute more people. Again, the purpose of the whole January 6th motive was to find a way to criminalize and penalize the whole Trump-supporting MAGA movement. And since they can't just go around arresting people, they had to orchestrate some sort of insurrection. They had to orchestrate an attack, and they thought, well, we might as well do it at the Capitol, because people attacking the Capitol, of course people would say that they need to be arrested. The Capitol is like the haven of the center of politics. It's where the happening has happened.
Because of Donald Trump's lies, they died because these lies brought a mob to Washington. He promised it would be wild, and it was. He told the crowd to fight like hell, and all hell was unleashed. He promised he would write them. Everything they did, he would be side by side with them. Then, as usual,
it is kind of funny that he mentions about Donald Trump's lies, and then the first thing he mentions was, well, Donald Trump said it was going to be wild, which it was. So technically, that wasn't even a lie. You just contradicted your entire self. You just contradicted that statement. Donald Trump has made multiple lies about this. He said it was going to be wild, and it was wild. So, yes, he was definitely right about that, but he's still a liar. I wish I had the beginning of this speech because at the beginning, Joe Biden at first said that, he was running 2024 campaign to look at the future, and Donald Trump is running a campaign of the past. He's bringing up, things of the past and making it about himself. As the entire speech of Joe Biden is bringing up January 6th, that happened 3 years ago, and making his personal statements of how he felt on that day. Like, I get that they're old. I get that he's senile. I get that he's, demented. I get that he's not going to understand what he's saying out in the open. But you think that someone out there is watching this going, how are you not understanding that you're contradicting yourself? You're saying that Donald Trump is making this campaign about himself and he's bringing up things of the past. Here you are. Your first speech in 2024 is about January 6th and how you felt on that day. Come on.
Well, he left the dirty work to others. He retreated to the White House. As America was attacked from within, Donald Trump watched on TV in a private small dining room off the Oval Office.
He watched it on the TVs of the diner, and there was ketchup stains all over the place. Remember that testimony? I forget who that lady was. It was something Hutchinson. But remember she made that testimony that Donald Trump, plunged to the driver's seat of his limo and tried to take the wheel so he can, motorcade through the crowd and get back to the Capitol. Like, remember how stupid that statement was? How bogus and fictitious that was? Well, there's ketchup stains all over the place, and he definitely uses Heinz or Hunt's because he's pro-American, and Hunt's is pro, MAGA or something like that. Like, it's just so bad. It was so bad. Just like this speech, just like anytime they rehash January 6th, it just makes it worse. It makes it worse. Because we saw what we saw. We know what happened. We saw the internal footage unfolding. We saw the people walking in there. And every time you bring it up and try to make it, worse than it is, it doesn't. It doesn't intensify that. It just makes you worse. And this is your top 2024, your first speech with all the high inflation, with all the foreign wars, with all the mass homelessness that's going around, with all the infrastructure that's collapsing, with everything that's happening right now, the uncertainty and scrutiny that's going on in this moment. Your first speech is to rehash January 6th.
The entire nation watched in horror. The whole world watched in disbelief. And Trump did nothing. Members of his staff, members of his family, Republican leaders who were under attack at that very moment, pled with him. Act. Call off the mob. Imagine had he gone out and said, stop. And still, Trump did nothing. It was among the worst derelictions of duty by a president in American history.
And look at the way, as he's saying that, he's gritting his teeth so badly. He is so angered by this. That could have been my democracy. I will get it from you and you meddling kids. That's probably what he's thinking. Like, Donald Trump's lies ruined my lives, and now I'm pissed off. That's why I gotta go Clint Eastwood on this. Go good, bad, and ugly. Was Clint Eastwood even in Good, Bad, and Ugly? I don't even know. I don't know much about Western films. That's my grandfather's territory, unfortunately. And he's no longer with us. But so let me just bring to attention to highlight what happened January 6th as, the darkest day in American history. Let's just remind you exactly what happened at that point with some little insider footage because, there was cameras. And just like how they, ignored, the side effects of the COVID vaccine and tried to hide it for 75 years, they tried to hide the camera footage, the caught on camera footage for so long. They didn't want people to release it. They didn't want people, but it was the scariest thing in all of human history. They didn't want people to know how scary it was. Well, let me tell you how scary it was, ladies and gentlemen. Because this looks horrifying, folks. Look at all the different people just walking around. This is the darkest day in American democracy, ladies and gentlemen. This is a terrifying insurrection. And if this was trying to take over the government, folks, holy crap, did they do an absolutely poor ass job? Did they really, really shit the bed on this? I mean, these are supposed to be mega Second Amendment gun nuts, and they forgot the guns. They forgot to insurrect. They forgot the violence. Oh my God. I thought they were supposed to take over the government. Well, they're doing an absolute shitty job of it. Oh, well, that's just the one take of it. Here's also another take, more famously. This is when they actually got into the front of the building, and they're just walking by. Watch this. So there they are, walking by. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Single file. Look at how nice and neat and organized. Unruly mob, and they're being so civil when they're walking down a hallway. Still considered the darkest day in American history. I mean, it is as intense as my 7th grade trip to the ROM. I mean, that insurrection, our school just swarmed right into that museum. And then a tour guide just came out and then walked us through the building and pointing out different artifacts. How horrifying that was. The ROM was just intense. Because it looks like a tour group. It literally looks like a tour group. And even the cops there are not doing anything. The cops could not care less. 2 of them are talking to each other. One's just walking by. Yeah, okay. Oh, this is so laughable. It's like the boy that cried wolf. Every time you see Democrats or Republicans, any politician that continuously brings this up to try to make us still think that this is the most dangerous part of American society, that your neighbors, your friends, and family are possible, insider domestic terrorists because they walked into the Capitol and took selfies with cops. It shows how pathetic they are, how absolutely pathetic they are. And makes you wonder exactly what kind of strong leadership qualities they ever had. Like, literally, what kind of strong leadership qualities do any of these people have? Even the, GOP that's running right now in the debates. The ones that are, anti-Trump, the Nikki Haley's and the Chris Christie's and the, in some cases, Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis is flip-flopped a bit. Those anti-Trumpers that also try to bring this up, it just shows how pathetic they are at strong leadership. Because they can easily just cave. They can easily cave. If they believe that somehow a group of American civilians that are supposed, gun-toting nuts and forgot the guns was going to take over the government, holy crap. Are politicians that dumb? Are politicians that dumb? And let's not forget that the people that walked inside peacefully and, just walked in there like a normal average person walking through a museum, got jail sentences, multiple jail sentences, got maybe 20, 30 years. The the I forget his name already, but the guy in the Buffalo Bill helmet got almost 40 years of prison time for walking into the Capitol. But do you know miraculously who didn't get jail sentences and never gets mentioned in the news? People that should know who this guy is, people that should be, you know, when you mention about January 6th, maybe this name should come up. This gentleman by the name of Ray Epps. Folks, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Democrats, Republicans never mentioned this guy's name when it comes to January 6th. They talk about the crowds. They talk about Donald Trump. They talk about, you know, the danger it poses on democracy. They, you know, how dangerous it is that they're, you know, attacking politicians. Never bring up this guy's name. How is it that I know this guy's name? I know who this guy is. Everybody else that watches this channel, I've seen this before, knows who this guy is. But it never gets mentioned in the circles. Never gets mentioned. He never got jail sentence, never went on trial. Nothing ever happened to him. And you tell me how dangerous this guy could be.
We need to go into the Capitol. Into the Capitol. What? No! Peacefully. Fed. Tomorrow.
That's a guy who admitted and screamed out in the open, we need to storm in the Capitol. That's caught on video. On video. You can watch it anywhere. And this guy never got a jail sentence, never got charged, never got prosecuted, is walking free. The guy who actually admitted to saying that we need to storm the Capitol. And all the other people are saying, what the hell are you saying? He's a Fed. He's a Fed. We need to do peaceful transition. We need to protest peacefully. We don't need to storm in the Capitol. That's crazy. Everybody else thought it was nuts. And everyone else got more jail sentences than any of these people because he's an insider. He's part of the FBI. He's an FBI insider posing as a civilian to enact this because this was all manufactured. This was all a scam. This was all a ruse to fearmonger and scare people to try to prosecute a political movement.
I don't even like to say it because I'll be arrested.
Well, let's not say it.
We need to go. I'll say it.
All right.
We need to go in.
I love it. How ironic that is. I don't want to say it because I might get arrested, even though I know I'm not going to get arrested because I work for the people. I work for the deep state insiders. But I'm going to say I'm not going to say it because I might get arrested. Like, Jesus.
Shut the fuck up, Boomer.
To the Capitol.
Base Fed posting? All right. We need to go into the Capitol. I didn't see that coming. Okay.
Monument Hill.
Speaking. We are going to the Capitol where our problems are. It's that direction. Please spread the word. All right. Noted. Okay, but one more thing.
Like, have you ever heard of a normal sounding person, just a normal average person, screaming like that? Like, we need to go into the Capitol and we need to storm in this direction. Like, it's almost like he's like a military captain, like analyzing strategically, planning an attack. Like, oh, we need to go in this direction. We need to go in this way. Like, you hear the normal conversations that everybody else is having, you know, oh, we need peaceful transition. Like, we're just gonna, you know, walk around and, you know, just hold up our signs. But this guy's like, no, we're gonna go in there and we're gonna cause havoc. Never gets mentioned in the media. Never gets mentioned. In fact, you bring attention to Ray Epps. You mention to Bill Maher or Joy Behar or Rachel Maddow or Anderson Cooper. You mention that name to any of those people, they don't know who the hell you're talking about. But anyone that goes on social media has definitely heard this name because this video has been passed around so many times.
Can we go up there? No?
When we go in,
Are we going to get arrested if we
leave
go
this
up there?
here. You don't need to get
Did you
shot.
arrest us all?
So you notice how he walked up to the one kid and spoke to him in his ear. And then all of a sudden, that's when the gates start pushing in. So that's Ray Epps telling them, hey, you need to push the gates down. You need to push the gates down. This is an FBI insider telling people to get violent. And like any other event in human history, how many times have we ever seen federal insiders getting involved in these orchestrations, in these demonstrations, to cause more havoc? We saw, how Minneapolis, they had undercover cops lighting things on fire. Why? To counteract the peaceful Black Lives Matter protests. They needed something to accelerate the hatred, the violence, the bigotry, accelerate that so it goes against the peaceful protesting. That's what's going on. They need an FBI insider to get in there to cause more havoc than this thing already than it wasn't, and try to undermine the idea that this was a peaceful protest. And like I said, he admitted on camera, there's hundreds and hundreds of different videos proving that claim. Not a single trial. Not a single accusation on Ray Epps. Completely swept under the rug. He's able to walk free. But yet, the bystanders got arrested, got jail sentences, and has still continued to serve time. All because this was an insider orchestration to try to criminally prosecute the MAGA movement. They needed something. They needed some sort of scenario to fearmonger people, this kind of raised havoc, to try to find a way to criminally prosecute as many MAGA supporters as possible, that they could demonize half the country and scare the other half back into line. This is the January 6th. The orchestration inside January 6th was to undermine the American populace. That's what's undermined democracy. Not that people stormed in the Capitol, but because they had to orchestrate this to try to prosecute and criminalize half the country. That's what's undermined democracy. It's the deep insiders that are screwing this country. They're the ones ruining democracy. And that's why Joe Biden never, ever tells you the straightforward of January 6th. He will continue to rehash it as a fear-mongering trope to scare you into line to continue to vote for him, saying that he's helping democracy. Meanwhile, he's the one that's undermined democracy. He's the one that's prosecuting the MAGA movement. He's the one that put a hit job, a raid on Mar-a-Lago, and stormed into Trump's personal private estate to steal documents. He's the one that's orchestrating indictment after indictment, which Donald Trump has proven innocent every time. They have no evidence, they have no claims, but they try to arrest him on every single count and make up these fictitious stories to try to prosecute an opposer. Because the deep state does not want Donald Trump. The deep state hates Donald Trump because he's a wild card. He's a wild card. He's not fully 100% involved with the deep state. That's why they hate him so much. That is why they're doing everything at great lengths to try to eliminate him, to try to prosecute him, to try to prosecute his campaign, to try to prosecute supporters of him, and try to undermine anything that has anything to do outside of the establishment, including this goddamn charade of an insurrection. Which, if they were trying to insurrect and overthrow the government, my God, they did a shitty job. And that's not even me saying that. That's Nancy Pelosi's daughter even admitting that. Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who admitted that she was trying to direct people into how this played out. She knew about this. She knew about January 6th and was trying to direct it out so she can get documented footage to make America scared again. Make America fear-mongered again, enough to fall into line of the rest of the establishment. And they're just going to continue on with this crap as much as possible.